From the heart of Maine, this is the DuView Podcast.
All right, and welcome to this week's episode of the DuView Podcast. I'm your host, Du, a.k.a. Ryan Dumont, and this week for episode 44, I am joined by good-time college friend and all-around excellent Massachusetts buddy, Miss Devin Kelley. Devin, thank you for coming up and coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Right on, excellent. So, pending no technical difficulties here, we're off and running. So we're happy to have you up here and on. I know it's a trek, so as I say to all of my podcast guests from away, thank you so much for coming up. And also, first and foremost, really starting off, congratulations. You have a wedding coming up this September, which is very exciting. And also just congratulations officially on the podcast on your engagement as well.
Thank you.
To former podcast guest and good friend of the podcast, Mr. Jeffrey Jackson. So shout out to Jeff as well. It's just great to have you guys on. And actually, funny enough, this is actually a good way to set up the story. I actually was friends with you before really clicking off and hitting off my friendship with Jeff, which was really kind of funny how that actually ended up playing out and how
I know.
small of a when you go to a campus of 1,200, 2,000 people, it's a small world really at the end of the day.
Yeah, everybody knew each other pretty much.
But I mean, what are the odds that, two of your friends end up together? It just kind of works out sometimes.
Yeah, it did work out for sure. Like for our friend group, especially, it was serendipitous.
So before attending, Saint Anselm College, where did you call home down in Massachusetts?
Yeah, I am from. I grew up in Manchester by the Sea, Mass, which is on Cape Ann, which is like a tiny little Cape Cod, but more north.
Right.
Coastal beach town. I love it there. I had a great childhood, beautiful houses and everything.
It really is. Actually, your parents were nice enough to host or allow you and Jeff to host a New Year's Eve party one year. So I got to meet your family, part of your family anyway, your brother
dogs.
and the dogs. Yeah. At the time they had these, what are they, Newfies?
Yeah, Newfies.
They were these, I call them cows or bears because they're just, if you've ever seen this type of dog, they're massive. And the Kellys at the time had two.
Yes, well, they have two again.
And they do, okay. Yeah.
They lost one of them, sadly, a couple of years ago. And then they just adopted an 8-month-old dog about a year and a half ago now. So she's 2.
Oh, wow.
Cedar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. And then you guys also, speaking of dogs, have your dog Cedar as well, who's an Italian Spinone.
Yeah.
Very rare breed of dog around this neck of the woods anyway. I don't see too many of them hanging out, but if you kind of picture it, imagine an educated gentleman with like a mustache or like a goatee and or like a college professor in the early 20th century, and that would kind of be like what Cedar your dog looks like. But so you guys, it's Manchester by the Sea in the past, and now where do you guys call home? Because you just moved recently.
Yes, we did. We moved in February 1st, and we live in Amesbury, Massachusetts now.
Right on.
Right over the border from New Hampshire.
Right on, and that makes it, as I, selfishly, first thing I said was, wow, you guys are closer to me. That's cool.
No, it is good, though, because obviously a lot of our friends live both in Maine and New Hampshire, so we're just closer to, now we're further away from our friends in Boston, but not by much.
How far is it to Boston from where you guys are now?
It's not far still. It's probably 45 minutes, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad at all, actually.
It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it really is.
Right in the middle now.
Yep. Right on. And so I guess, what were the biggest differences between living where you are now in Amesbury to previously living down in Waltham?
Yeah, so I feel like the biggest difference between the two living experiences that we've had in Massachusetts together in our apartments is mostly Amesbury is much more of like a small town feel.
Yes, okay.
It is technically a city, but it feels so much smaller.
Interesting.
In a good way, I think. Like it's a little, I would call it like picturesque or quaint. Waltham very much feels like a suburb of Boston. It feels like a city.
Yep, it's the same very fast-paced Boston energy versus probably a little bit more laid back, residentially,
Yes.
Mayberry-ish,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
Yeah, Amesbury, it definitely feels more small town, which is a welcome change, I
Yeah,
think.
I'm sure. I mean, like, you get done with your day, you relax, like, you're not
Yeah.
like, oh, we need to keep, ripping it like city speeds, which is, again, different. And that's why I like having you folks, I say folks from away. It's not like you guys are a million miles away by any means, but you folks from away on just to try to create some difference, because, like, things are much slower paced up here, no,
Oh, yeah,
no
for
lie,
sure.
and I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny how you have your, you kind of go up the east, New England, and you kind of have, all right, Boston, very fast paced, and then you get back up, and then you get, close to southern New Hampshire, slows down a little bit,
Yeah.
and then, you kind of get some Massachusetts energy from people who, so it speeds
Yeah.
back up, and then it slows back down. You get up to the seacoast,
Yeah.
picks back up a little bit, and then depending on the time of year, and then
Yeah, it's like
you get into
these
southern
little-
Maine, and it's a whole different animal.
Yes. Yeah. For sure. It's like different. There's like little, I guess like pulsings,
Little
for
pockets
lack of a better
or like little
term.
pockets of energy,
Yes.
based on the settlements and
Yeah,
stuff.
like all over, but they vary and they're widely spread, I feel
Right,
like.
which is
so.
interesting because, like, you think of, like, the East Coast, like, of all very rooted in, like, the old, like, old school Puritan tradition, so things are kind
Yeah.
of, like, traditional in certain aspects, but also not as
Yes.
as they develop, so it's really interesting, like, the Seacoast especially, like, because my mom's side of the family, the Carboni side, the Italian side of my family, they live down in Boothbay Harbor, and so, like, a lot of, like, look very fondly on, being by the ocean, similar to, like, some of
Yes.
your experiences, I'm sure, because, like, I think back to when you had us down for New Year's, we woke up the next morning, and after we got some food, the next thing we did was go sit on the beach and, like, watch the dogs run around on the beach
Yes.
and stuff like that, which was awesome, and it's just, like, very picturesque, very comfortable, relaxed type places,
Yeah.
which I think in part we can kind of say, kind of getting back to, like, sort of how we met in college. Kind of, you could say the same thing about at least maybe not the city of Manchester, but at least where we went to school, our campus, like Saint Anselm College, very
Yes.
cozy,
Yep.
very down to earth, very much like, I guess, contained also at the same time,
Yeah.
and that's like part of the reason I went there too at the same time. And I'm not sure what were
I
your,
think we all did.
what it was. You say, well, I guess leading into that, what would be some of your reasons? Like you went to Saint Anselm College, like.
Yeah.
Because you were 2 years ahead of me too, or 2 years ahead of
Yes.
Jeff and I anyway. So
Yes. So I feel like, so I didn't even know it existed, to be honest with
Yeah.
you, until my dad, who plays the guitar,
Yep.
he remembered that he had done a couple gigs in the pub.
Oh,
And he was
okay.
like, "Oh, St. Anselm College. I matched with them on, I think it's Aviance, the one that like matches you
Oh,
with
yeah,
colleges
yeah,
that you
yep,
might
yep,
be
yep.
good for or
Interesting.
whatever."
Yep.
Yeah, so I matched with them and I had never heard of it. And my dad said we should totally go check it out. You would love it. And I toured the campus a couple times and just fell in love with it. And
Right.
then I think the deciding factor was accepted Students Day. I sat in on, I think it was an English class, and I ended up being an English major, it
Yep.
turns out. And I just loved the way the professor was talking. I loved the feel of the campus. I think it's a feeling for a lot of us, I feel like.
Yep.
It felt like home. So and it was.
It
for-
very much
those
was for 4 years. Yeah. And that's
was
what
great.
everybody says. It felt like home. And like, I don't think there are very few people there that either, okay, maybe they had a bad experience or maybe it just wasn't the
Yeah.
place for them. But case in
Of
point, a lot of
course.
folks, I mean, the resounding, even myself when I had my salty moments about college and
I mean,
everything
we
like
all
that.
do,
And like
though.
that's again setting up another kind of cool segue for, I guess, preparing this episode, talking with you and really kind of put some things into perspective for me in terms of not only our friendship, but also like you and I kind of had a similar shared experience just a couple years apart in the sense that we graduated from a very, I'll say, prestigious university
Yeah.
with a pretty solid degree. And we did something with our degrees, like that were in our field technically.
Yes.
And then we shifted gears and got away from it, which
Yeah.
was just something that was very, interesting. So you were an English major, and I guess what made you want to be an English major? I mean, because I ended up, teaching English down the road, but
Yeah.
like, so I guess I have some very, very minimal insight into kind of like what you guys did, but like again, being
Yeah.
extremely minimal. But what made you want to be an English major?
Yeah, so going into college, I I had no idea what I wanted to be or what I wanted to study or anything like that. I generally a very curious person. So I just wanted to explore it all. I knew I wasn't great at math or science. So I thought that the humanities I would
Yeah.
try more. And that was a great place to do it. I took a couple English courses and I found that I'm a brilliant writer.
Hey, I
I
mean,
mean, not
that's
a brill. I shouldn't say brilliant, but I'm a very strong writer.
yep.
I have really good language skills. Speaking, not as much, I guess, but yeah. So I just found that that was where I was good.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And I thought it was versatile.
Yep.
I loved history as well, but I thought that maybe it wasn't as practical because I might want to pivot into the business world, which obviously is where I am now. And I knew I didn't want to be a teacher,
Yeah.
but
Which is
ended up in
yeah,
education for a couple of years
right,
anyway.
as you do. And again, like I never thought I'd be in education
Yeah.
at any point in my career either. You know, like I said, it's amazing when you get a phone call how things can
Yeah.
shift, and like
Seriously.
whether it be, you know, survival situation like COVID or whatever, you know, the
Yeah.
situation ended up leaning itself to. But I just thought that was an interesting parallel for the two of us, and then just like
Yeah.
and so I guess, you know, how many years did you work in education after you graduated?
Yeah, so I guess it was I think 4 years, maybe 3.5,
Yeah.
because I started in October and then I left and right after the start of 2021, like the 2021 to 2022
Yeah.
year.
Yep.
So yeah, and then I was a temp for a little bit before that too. So yeah, I guess 4
Yeah,
years.
give yourself the 4 years, that's
Yeah.
for sure. It can feel like a lot more, I'm sure, you know,
Yeah.
depending on the setting and whatever. And because you correct me if I'm wrong,
Mhm.
and you were not like in a traditional
No.
like public school setting. You were in a little bit a special of a setting, correct?
Yes, it was an alternative school setting. So, kids who, for whatever reason,
Right.
don't quite fit or succeed in a regular school setting, they get referred basically to a school like us.
Yep.
Public funding. So the town that they're from pays
Like a
to,
superintendent's
yes.
agreement, like here
Yeah,
our money is gonna.
exactly.
Yep.
Like,
Okay, that makes
yeah.
sense.
So they're still kind of um being paid by wherever they live to
Mhm.
go to school. Like, but yeah, so it was kind of hard, honestly. I didn't love it. There were moments where there were a couple kids that I like felt sorry for,
Yeah.
felt like I kind of identified with
Yep.
or I could see the potential in them. But ultimately it wasn't a great place for me, and then I just decided that education in general, even in a regular school setting, I don't think
It's tough, Dev. I
yeah,
mean, like I'm not
it's
gonna.
not what I
I'm
wanted.
not going to sugarcoat it. Even my own experience was rough, you know, and
Oh
at
yeah.
times, because like I said, true COVID year, asynchronous
Yeah.
learning, being asked to do a lot with very
Oh
little
yeah.
support. And I
That
mean,
was a
that
hard time to be a teacher, to be
it
honest.
really was. But at the same time, every time can be a hard time being a teacher.
Oh yeah,
You know,
for sure.
especially like I said, it's not, you know, when the kids come up to you, and especially being as like, well, friendly as you are,
Mhm.
like, I mean, they're going to come up to you and say, like, oh, Miss Kelly, blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, now I have to go talk to DHHS or, you know, like, or whatever. It's like, oh, great. You know, it's like, or, you know, you try to motivate a kid. I remember one kid,
Yep.
and I ended up running into him a couple years ago. He didn't say anything to me. I bet the kid still hates my guts, but you know what? I think I taught him a couple life lessons. I mean,
Yes, I bet.
I mean, like I was just said, paraphrasing here, I was just like, you know, only you can own your shit. Like you can blame
Seriously,
you can
yeah.
blame your situation on your mom, you can blame your situation on your dad,
Mhm.
you can blame it on your older brother, you can, you know, whatever, but at the end of the day, the only person within reason, again, you know,
Yeah,
I'm paraphrasing here. This was, you know, 2 years ago, and I said the only
I
person
get
that
it.
can really, not to sound like a boomer, but the only person who can pull
Yeah.
yourself up, bootstraps optional. The only person who can pull yourself up is you. You know, like, because
Yeah.
down the road, I said, listen, you're a 7th grader right now. In another few years, you're going to be a 12th grader. You're going to be out of here.
Mhm.
You're going to say, you know what, screw those people in those buildings. I don't have to listen to them anymore. But at the end of the day, you're still going to be held responsible for your own choices.
Oh
Now
yeah.
you're in that role where your mom was 10 years ago or whatever
Yeah.
it was, or, you know,
Seriously.
however that ends up, you know, splitting out. And so, like, that was the biggest thing, seeing those kids that, you know, have the opportunity. And again, but I was in public school, so a little different, obviously. And that's, I think, seeing and talking with folks like yourself who worked in Massachusetts, because it was funny working for the campaign, working for Governor Weld.
Yeah.
Talked with him a lot about, because he did a lot with education when he was governor in
Oh
Massachusetts.
yeah.
Like revamping it to, I guess, kind of. I'm not saying the standards are where it is now, but like the whole like the current system in Massachusetts all started with Bill Weld back in the
Yeah.
90s, and like the charter schools, everything, all
Yeah.
that got their start back then, and so. That was the big thing that I disagreed with him on, was charter schools. Like, again, if they're getting public money, they should adhere to just because, like, and again, I think it prescribes the idea, and this is part of the reason I got out of education. You can't just throw money at the problem and expect it to solve itself.
Yep.
You can't just like, it's like, yeah, okay, yes, you can pay teachers better. That's a good step in the right direction. And there are little things you can do, but like at the end of the day, it's just like, I think we really do approach education all types of the wrong ways in the United States. But
yeah, it definitely
that's
needs an overhaul.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Throughout the country, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No,
like I said, I can only talk about, like what's in my literally, like the high school is literally in my backyard. Like,
oh yeah, yeah.
I can talk about what is very literally in my backyard, but like I said, it's good to have other perspective of other people who were in that setting and realizing, wow, this setting is tough for me. So I guess, what are you doing now for work? What do you find yourself doing these days?
Yeah, so when I had been looking for a job even like halfway through my 4 years in education, and never quite found the right one to jump to until recently. So I've now been with Expeditors for a year and a half, I think.
Okay.
So I briefly had an internship when I was in college with a trade company called Expeditors, or freight forwarder, shipping company, whatever
but case
you
in
want to
point,
call
you're
it.
shipping Connex boxes, goods all over the country, all over the world,
all
really.
over the world. So yeah, actually, it's I don't do domestic. I do only export.
Okay.
Yeah. So I work in air too. So I basically I pick up freight. I arrange freight to be picked up at docks.
Yep.
With our customers. And that could be anything from medical supplies to semiconductor technology. We ship robots for Boston Dynamics.
Cool.
Yeah, stuff like that.
So
high-tech stuff.
literally anything, really, just about anything. That's cool.
Pretty much
anything.
Like,
and that's what I think people don't realize. And I have another friend who's going to be on the podcast at some point. Sean Cameron. We all love Sean, and he worked over at Redline, or still works over at Redline. And
they're one of our contractors.
talking about him, but he does, more domestic stuff. And it's just, it's interesting to hear how the import-export business in the United States and around the world kind of goes, because like you look at an event like the canal getting clogged up with the boat, like a year ago.
Oh my God, yeah.
And how much that fucked up everything. Or, or if, like, say the Panama Canal closes for maintenance for a month, like...
Oh, my God, the backlogs.
Fuck all. You know what I'm saying?
I can't even imagine.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is that as big of a world as we are, it's not so big when you're talking about the trade, the act of, sending goods from one place to another.
It is crazy to me. Like, I think about globalization all the time. I'm such a nerd when it comes to stuff like that.
Well, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
For what you do.
Like, I've started printing airway bills and stuff like that now. And every time I get one with my name on it, I'm like, yes, I did it. It's so, like, I don't know. It's just cool that accompanies freight to China or, I was gonna say Russia, but no.
Yeah,
not right now.
Not right now anyway.
But
up in about a year ago, yes, but within the last year, not so much.
But like I frequently ship to China, Italy, Chile.
So it's almost like a part of you is almost kind of like gone to those places in a sense.
I know, it's so cool. I talk to people I email with them back and forth.
That's cool.
I have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really, really, I love my job. I think it's really cool.
Well, that's unique because not a lot of people can say that. A
I
lot
know.
of people only work their job because they have to work their job, And I can actually, while we're talking about employment, I can talk a little bit about that myself.
Of course,
and I've started a new job at Augusta Fuel Company. Thank you. Still doing electrical, still working as an electrician and all that good stuff. And just needed a change. And I'm 5 minutes from home, which is awesome. And they're a great company on top of, they're a good community partner. They've always donated to the carer group, which I'm a part of, and
That's great.
whenever we've done our auction or anything like that, they've been very good. So, like I said, employment, and I can say that I also love my job, which
That's
is cool.
great.
Because again, like I said, not a lot of folks can say that, but it's
Yeah.
kind of cool though that now thinking about it, that some of the stuff that I may be using in the field, you could have made
Yeah.
sure it got sent to
Yeah.
you're saying semiconductors and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Well,
That's
yeah. Even like I did a pickup yesterday for a wiring company.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's-
we're all connected.
Well, that's the thing, and actually speaking of that, we were talking, about like lithium and
yes.
all
yep.
these resources that we need to make, whether it be copper for
Mhm.
wire or batteries or
and-
whatever.
yeah.
And so this fun fact: Maine has one of like the highest deposits of lithium in the country. But we
Wow, I
also
didn't know
have,
that.
but we also have some of the strictest anti-mining laws in the country as well, like
Yes.
zero tolerance policy on mining.
Oh boy.
Well, it's going to be what I'm getting at is down the road. It's going to be interesting to see where that kind of takes us. Is like if we're going to have a big battle over it, or if it's just going to stay right in the ground.
yeah.
Personally, I'm a little torn. I like my state; it's very beautiful, and I don't want to do anything to
Yeah.
compromise that. But if there comes a point in time where we need access to that lithium, I don't know. It's like one of
I
these
know.
types of deals.
Yeah.
And I know you're a nature lover too. I mean, you get
yes.
outside and hike just
Yes.
about as much as I do, and so
Yeah.
like it's a kind of a
It's a fine line to walk for sure. I don't know enough about the issue to like stake whether or not I
I get
my,
you.
my
No, I know
opinion
what
either
you're saying.
way.
I get what you're
But
saying.
I see both sides.
Yeah, it's just like,
I understand that.
the more
yeah.
we do, like, I mean, like I can think of everything, like from batteries in our cell phones. Like, I mean, I have like a Milwaukee drill over there for like power tools. Like all those power tools are all lithium batteries. It's
Yes.
It's crazy.
It's everything.
Everything that we do technologically speaking. And I'm sure you're going to see that. I mean, I'm sure you've seen that in your field, like what you guys are shipping and everything like that too. Like things are very much technologically inclined.
Oh yeah, it's
extremely,
all, yeah. I mean, and I actually just got my certification in November to do dangerous goods, hazardous materials, and lithium batteries.
Oh, yeah.
So before then, I was unable to handle any shipment and that's a lot.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
almost, and then think about like shipping cleaning solutions. That's all hazardous.
Technically, yes, it is.
Anything with a battery, robots, hazardous.
Yep.
Like lithium
Well,
batteries.
anything that can leak or blow up.
That can
or
blow up
any-
an
yeah.
airplane.
Oh, yeah.
It
easily.
can and it has.
I mean, like
It's
they were
crazy.
they were talking about I don't remember where it was, but like these electric scooters that people have,
Yeah.
and they've been charging them in the garage, and they've been starting fires.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah.
So I
I
mean,
know,
I don't
yeah.
think it's 100%. I don't think the technology is 100% there. We haven't really
Yeah.
refined it 100%. But there's also an interesting, I guess, this is kind of a getting way into batteries and tools and stuff like that. But like the Caterpillar, like the big machines.
Yes, yeah.
They have actually what's called graphene, and they use that for one of their drill batteries. It's apparently better than lithium into the sense that you can fully charge a battery in like 20 minutes.
Wow.
And like stuff like that. And apparently it's been out for a while. I need to definitely do some more research into that. But
Yeah.
that's another one graphene. So I don't know if you'll be seeing any of
That
that.
could be the future.
I don't know. It very well
Yeah.
well could be. And so you guys
Interesting.
mentioned that you do stuff with the ports and also with the with air. So is that right out of like Logan Airport being in
Yes.
Boston? Yep.
Yeah, so basically like what we do is we service the whole New England area for
Yep.
our customers. So we pick up freight, we bring it back to our dock in Peabody, and we process the paperwork, make sure the shipment is okay, screen it. In most cases, we screen it. We don't
Yep.
screen hazardous stuff, obviously. And then it goes directly to the airport. So, or sometimes if, like for certain lanes, like Singapore, for example, there's a lot more options out of JFK. So every night we have a certain amount of trucks that we send a bunch of freight down to JFK. So they
Okay.
go throughout the night. They get there in the morning, and then they'll go direct out of JFK. 'cause,
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a huge
Yeah, I mean, well,
airport.
that's like
Yeah.
something that like I wouldn't have assumed. I just had assumed, you have an airport there.
Yeah, well, we
You know
try
what I
to
mean?
go out
Like,
of Boston
I
whenever
get
we
you.
can.
Yeah, no, but
because
that's
it's-
interesting. That's
yeah.
that. Like I said, adding different perspective. Like import export is something. Before really talking with you, knew very little to nothing about it.
Yeah,
But it's like as I was trying to get at when you first started talking about it, superly vitally important. Like I said, the world
yeah,
just about shut down when the Suez Canal went down. Like
yeah,
like seriously, like I mean, like not
Yeah.
shut down in the sense like we had to stay inside like with COVID or anything like that, but like in terms of like access to normal consumer goods. And it's funny, and I'm sure you do this, being like, kind of like I guess the gatekeeper in a certain aspect,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you sit there and you watch these people like Best Buy or the store, a box store, going, they don't have my shit, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah.
sorry,
Like I honestly, I know. I'm like, yeah. I mean, sorry, shipping is what it is right now, like the state of the world. Although the market's getting much.
yeah, that's what
better.
that was going to be my other question. Have things
Yeah.
stabilized at all?
Yes. So it's funny you say that because we do reports all the time, and management is always tracking the market.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Have to.
and yeah, and then they let us know. So right now there's a lot of capacity and a lot of demand. So it's very level right now. The market is definitely softer than it has been since the pandemic,
Interesting.
for sure, which is a good thing.
Well, that's interesting you say that too, because like talking with our other good friend, Mr. James Talalas, about the being in finance,
Yeah.
talking with him about the markets and stuff like that, and how we're basically in a recession without being in a recession. And
Yes, yeah.
it's interesting to see, like, just because the market is this doesn't exactly mean the trade market is exactly, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
there-
Trade
yeah.
in the sense of the physical goods, not trade in the sense of
Yes.
like trading stocks.
Yes, yeah, very different. I mean, everything's interconnected, but at the
But
same time, the
also
markets
isolated.
could be yes, the markets could be completely different from each
Yeah,
other.
that's
in-
why that's wild, to say like,
Completely
we're
different
kind
ends of the
we're
spectrum.
soft, but we're stabilizing, and that's like, huh.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then the stock market's like so volatile.
yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. I know, what a difference. It's
yeah,
crazy.
right. Well, and so you guys take care of stuff for all of New England. Do you even
Yeah.
take care of some customers up here in Maine as well?
Yes, yeah.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, I have a bunch of clients that we do pickups in Maine. A couple carriers. Obviously, we try to use carriers that are based in
Right.
northern New
Yep.
England.
Yep.
For that kind of stuff, and yeah, all the way down to Rhode Island and
Cool.
Connecticut.
Right
too.
on. And
yeah.
then speaking of, like the state itself, have you yourself spent much time up here other than coming up here?
Yeah, so I saw this question when you sent it to me, and I was like, I have to say honestly, no, I haven't, but I really want to explore Maine more.
It
I
really
do.
is. I mean, like I said, there's anything you can think about, especially in the outdoor aspect. We really
I know.
we
yeah.
really do have it. And especially I know I've gone on hikes with you guys before and stuff like that, and
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah, we
skiing,
have.
the hiking,
Yeah.
and especially the breweries. That's
Yeah.
another thing I want to touch on. And I gotta ask you guys just right out of the gate. I mean, I know you and Jeff have like a running list of how many breweries you guys have been to, and I'm just curious because I know like you guys may
Get
even
out the
started.
list.
You guys have may even
Get out the list.
you guys have may even started the list back when like Jeff and
Oh,
I were still
yeah.
seniors in
Yes.
in college, and so like I'm just curious. Like I don't know if you guys have like a running total of how many different breweries across New
He's
England you've
counting.
been to. That's fine. We can always get back to the tally, of course, but
It's got to be at least like 50, right?
At least 50.
Yeah.
But that's the cool, and you guys, and that's what I love about hanging out with you guys, even in some of the areas that we frequented. You guys show me some of the cool spots that I would have missed otherwise. So it's
Oh.
just real
Did
unique
you
like
tally
that.
them?
Real unique like that.
Do you want me to
But-
list them?
Yeah, just if you could just like
It's too many to list.
in the
I
last
think.
in the
It'll take
last
me 5
in the
minutes.
last I don't know if you have like the dates or anything, but in like the last like year, how many?
Well, okay, so once the pandemic hit,
Yep.
for sure we stopped. Like,
Right.
Obviously, we nowhere was open.
Yeah.
So that kind of it teetered off.
Yeah, of course.
for sure. But this is a list that we've definitely been. Did you count them? Oh, okay. So
75.
Jeff is saying at least 75.
That's wild.
That's
And
crazy.
But the cool
You want
thing
this
is
back?
we have like even in just like Portland, I think like there's like the amount of you almost have the amount
Yeah.
of breweries that there are in like some of the entire states. So I guess what I'm
Yeah.
trying to get at is that like beer
Yes.
exploration, and that's been like the cool thing. Like a lot of the times you can pair your hike with also a brewery with a this that because like I remember hiking up in like the Aquasic Rangeley area where Saddleback is, the ski mountain.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And there's also a brewery in Aquasic or a little town restaurant brewery type place, so it's like, oh, go get a porter after you take a
Yeah.
hike. That's
That's
the
the
cool thing.
best
That's the
part of
cool thing
hiking.
about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. It's the beer after.
But yeah, I mean, that's definitely probably 20% of the reason I do it. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll get a beer and a burger after for sure.
Right on. No, that's true. And I mean, like, any of the places, like I said, that you've taken me have been like lights out, food and drink wise. And I mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why we always eat.
I'm glad to hear
eat and
that.
drink well when
Oh,
rolling
yeah.
with Devin and Jeff. So
We have high standards.
yeah, it's important.
Yes.
And so I guess, looking into more of your I guess leisure time really, and I mean, I guess for you it's probably also kind of like a job in certain aspects, but you're big into the equestrian side of things too.
Yes.
And getting into that, that's a whole other side of the coin to unpack. I guess we'll just start from really the beginning. And so when I say equestrian, for those of you who may not be quite as educated, word wise, thesaurus wise, but that's just horses,
Yes.
and the love of horses, the sport of, well, there's many
Yeah.
different types. I'll let you get into all
Yes.
that because I'm going to butcher it. But all I know is that there's, you have like you jump over things, then you have dressage, which is a whole other, but
Yep.
case in point, like I'm already butchering it. So Devin, I guess really like, when did you first get started into your whole equestrian horse adventure, so to speak?
Yeah, so that's been pretty honestly, I can't remember a time where I didn't ride horses.
Yeah.
I fell in love with horses when I was 4 years old at the Topsfield Fair in Mass.
Okay,
I
yeah.
don't know if it's like
I've
the
heard it,
Freiburg
like I said.
Fair,
Yep.
Deerfield Fair.
Yeah.
And they used to have, I don't know if they do it anymore, but they had pony rides.
Oh yeah.
And yep. And from the
So you
moment
can
I was in the
actually
saddle,
you can actually trace it back to like pony
it was
rides
that
at
day.
the fair. That's
Yes,
cool. Yep.
I remember that day. I was 4. It's
Yep.
probably my earliest memory.
No
and
way.
yeah, and I started begging my parents for riding lessons, and they contacted barns all over, and they were like, she's a little bit too young. She's gonna have to wait a little bit longer. So they finally said it was okay to start when I was 6. So ever since I was 6, I've been taking weekly or more than that riding lessons. And yeah, and I'm in the hunter jumper discipline. So basically, looking pretty while jumping over stuff.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. I mean,
Or jumpers.
I do anything,
Yeah.
that's sports related, and I sweat like a pig. So I mean,
Yeah.
if some people have to look good doing it, so hey,
Yeah.
why not?
And then the jumpers, I mean, is you've seen it in the Olympics. It's all
Yes.
about timing and
Yep.
accuracy.
Okay.
So I do a little bit of both of
Yeah.
those.
Okay.
But yeah, mostly just jumping horses over objects. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's been my whole life. I love it. I still do it to this day.
That's excellent to say that you've been doing something really since you were like 4 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many people can say I've been doing this same activity for basically my whole life?
Yeah. Yeah. It's my thing. It's what
Very
I'm
much.
known.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah,
a
no.
horse girl. I'm proud of it. I was when I was in middle school, I actually was super embarrassed because there were some boys that made fun of me and my other friends who ride, called us Gallop girls. And yep, this is a true story.
Oh.
And so I had Facebook, and I was like, oh, I can't post any pictures of like with any horses because I don't want to get bullied at school.
That's wild.
And then when I was in high school, just something clicked. I was like, who cares?
Yeah,
Who
right.
cares? I
Yep.
love it. I don't care what they think.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
And now I'm a proud horse girl.
That's excellent. See, that's really excellent.
Yeah.
Into the sense that, too, just like doing what makes you happy, being true to who you are and all that type of
Exactly.
stuff. And like that makes all the difference right there. It's like same thing in line with the people who love their jobs, which you just
Yeah.
also happen to be one of those people. It's like it's easier to go through life when you have those things that bring you joy. Whether that
Yes.
be, again, in your situation, horse riding, or equestrian stuff. For me, definitely music.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
anything for everybody has their little like things they've been doing for the majority. There's that one or two things they've been doing a while that they just really really enjoy. And
Yeah, for
have
sure.
you ever done any? I mean, I know you do mostly like jumping over obstacles and such and timing and all that type of stuff. But have you ever done any like racing or just
Yeah, so
anything like that?
so as far as other disciplines go, like you were saying,
Yep.
there's many different types of
Yeah.
riding.
Yep.
So hunter jumper, what I do is one form of English riding, but
Okay.
obviously you have Western.
Yep.
I've done a little bit of Western before. Obviously, like most trail rides that you'll see like anywhere are Western because
And
it's
like what you see in
super
like your
comfortable.
John Wayne movie,
Yes.
like that type of.
It's all
Yeah,
Western.
yeah. Like the
Yeah.
yeehaw partner, like, let's get on the trail.
Everyone knows what it looks.
Yep,
It's
yep.
also just super comfortable. Western horses are so chill. It's honestly I want to get more into it because it's so laid back. It's very Americana, like super cool. You
Very
feel
much
cool
so.
doing it too.
I would love, yeah. I mean, if I ever had the land for it, you think about like
Yeah.
what would be one of those like and I call it for me, it's an excess purchase. It's
Yes.
like what would be cool to have? Well, maybe a horse to ride around on.
Yeah.
That could be pretty bad.
It's
feel like
honestly
a
so
cowboy.
much fun.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
do.
I don't
You're
know.
like,
Speaking, I can only speak for myself, but like when you're like a young boy, you have like either fascination. It's like pirates. Cowboys, like
Yeah.
one of those, types
Yes.
of things. And it's like, for me, it was always cowboys.
Yeah.
For me, it was
yeah.
always cowboys, and probably will always be cowboys. So
Cowboys are cool.
I,
I get it.
Cowboys
get
don't
it.
cry.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, like, so I've done a little bit of Western.
Yep.
I've done a little bit of dressage. I had the chance to ride a really, really expensive, fancy European dressage horse.
Interesting. Is that technical term? Is that horse dancing, or is that how do you?
So
What, for
people
those
call
for the
it
lay
that.
people, for the lay people,
I would never say that a person who does dressage would ever call it that.
Right? No, of course. Yeah.
But honestly, that's kind of what it is.
Okay.
It is, but it honestly, at its roots,
Mhm.
it was born in Europe in the 14 or 1500s as a military exercise. So it has its roots in like military
European
uniformity.
military uniformity.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
So it's, all about formation and I mean, obviously now it's just so embellished. It's supposed to be a show.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yep.
It's like horse ballet.
Yep.
But but it does have its roots in Europe and in the military, and it was all about, keeping the army together. Or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
like the
keeping,
cavalry,
keeping
like
keeping yourself regimented. That's
yeah, exactly.
Well, that's interesting that you say that too, because I think we actually did last shop I worked for did a lot of wiring at this horse barn. I think I told you a little bit about it or sent you some
Yeah,
photos.
yeah.
Like it had chandeliers and
Oh,
like
wow.
ceiling
nice.
fans and everything like that. And I would go outside, go out to the van, grab something, go back inside, and the guy had an indoor riding arena at the barn
Oh,
too,
yeah.
which was really cool. We did all the
Sounds like a fancy barn.
It really it is, but it's out in just like the middle of like nowhere, Fayette, Maine. I'm pretty sure. Like, and funny enough,
It's probably cheaper to have a barn.
oh,
like
it definitely
that here,
is.
Right?
Oh yeah, it definitely is. But he
Yeah.
also guy's name's Kevin Crane. He's great. He actually used to be a patient of my mom's. My mom used to clean
Oh,
his
wow.
teeth. I was like, yeah, I was doing
Oh.
work at this horse farm, and she goes, that's not so and so, is it? And I'm like, how'd you know that? I
Oh
didn't
my
tell you
God.
the name. Yeah, no, it's just funny. We're like I said, it's Maine. Everybody knows each other. So
Oh yeah, for
but
sure.
but
Yeah.
that being said, though, I mean, like I was watching him. He was like, he would also like train the horses, do like I
Mhm.
guess lack of a better term, like obedience classes for horses.
I mean that's
that's
what it is.
That's what it
Kind
very
of.
much looked like. He was using, but the method he was like using an American flag to like
Yeah.
temper the horse, not beating by I mean temper, but
No,
temper
yeah.
with like getting used to things that like billow and move, like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and like because this horse was incredibly skittish,
Yeah.
super skittish.
So that's a desensitization.
It was very
And so-
interesting though. But
Did I
sat
say that
there-
right?
yeah.
Why can't I speak today?
That's okay.
Sensitivation.
That's okay.
Desensitivation.
If I got every
That doesn't
word
sound
right,
right
I
either.
wouldn't be on the air
Anyway,
anymore.
That's
okay?
a
Like-
desensitizing
That's
thing.
okay.
I should
Yes.
could have just said that.
yeah, no, I
Anyway.
know what you meant.
Yeah, so it must have been a young horse.
Yeah.
Because that's what you literally like people put tarps over the horse's head to get them like used to
Random
things,
stuff that
yeah.
could happen.
So
Yeah,
you want a
right.
horse to not spook at like
Right.
a paper bag
Yeah,
or a plastic
like,
bag.
Yeah, plastic bag,
Like-
right. Or
So
if like
anyway.
somebody's holding something and they drop it and the cup like flies across the whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I understand.
I've dealt with many a spook before, and it's not the greatest.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
if you have a good seat and you've been riding for a long time, you'll stay on. But like, it's still not. The goal is to have a horse that can be in all types of environments.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And so it's like I said, for me, not having anything to do with the horse riding community at all, or anything to do with any equestrian, was just sitting there in awe watching this guy like walk this horse back and forth with a flag, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's interesting." And just like the whole thing, I think they're beautiful creatures, really. At the end of the day, like
Yeah, they are.
for different reasons than like cows are cool or other, like bovine creatures are
Yes.
unique. Like. I just think it's, like I said, something unique, and I said, like you were saying, like you have so many different types of horses for different types of,
Yeah.
whether you have the Clydesdale, your work horses, and
Mhm.
you're like farm horses that used to just like pull all the. I guess what I'm trying to say is we forget what a vital role our brethren horses
Used
played
to
in
play.
history. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, exactly, from farming to warfare to, like you were saying, like coming out
Yeah.
of that European, which makes sense because cavalry used to be such a huge thing
Yeah.
up until really like the American Civil War, end of the American Civil War and just 19th
Even
century.
World War
but
One,
yeah,
too.
you still had
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you had that movie War Horse. That's right.
Yep.
I don't think about that in that aspect because it was very much a failed, like cavalry was very
Yeah.
much a failed.
It was not a good
Yeah.
thing at that point.
Yeah.
They would have been better off.
Just leaving the horses at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those poor horses,
poor horses.
honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
like that's
boy.
like I said, it's just I'm very impressive to see that and how now that we have iron horses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see, and I guess that's a good question for you. How often do you get to ride these
Yeah.
days?
So, I pretty much these days I ride once a week.
Nice.
Mondays is my day.
Yep.
Occasionally I'll try to throw in another one. When I was working in education, obviously getting out earlier,
It makes a big difference on what you're
Yes.
able to do. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was riding probably a couple times a week then. But you know what? This is this is when I am able to do it.
Yep.
For obviously living in Waltham too. My horse barn, my trainer has moved her horses since the pandemic like 3 times.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so we were in Georgetown, and then we were in a different barn in Georgetown, and then we moved we're now in West Newbury, which is close to Newburyport.
Oh okay.
Very,
Yep,
very
yep.
close to us. I live 12 minutes away from the barn. It is
Oh.
wonderful.
So that was definitely an appreciated part of the move. There.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so, because
Was that planned in any way, or did it just happen to work out like
It-
that?
it was lucky, but
Yep.
it also was calculated at the same time. Like
I
we
have to ask.
we lucked into our place for sure, and we knew that we needed to be at least like on the northern side of Boston, but at the same time, like we just lucked into
Yeah. It
where
just
we ended up.
clicked. Like I
It
said,
was perfect.
not
It
to
was
sound
perfect.
like the soothsayer or anything like that, but sometimes things just happen to work out. They
seriously.
do, and I've learned that
Yeah.
with a little bit of patience, sometimes things do find their way of working out in that regard. And so,
Oh yeah.
I guess speaking of things working out, do you see yourself? I mean, given you guys are apartment living right now, just about to really set out on your own journey, in September in the truest sense.
Yeah.
But do you see yourself owning any horses down the road, or trying to like have a horse at home type of deal versus
Yeah.
riding somebody else's, horse?
Yes. Yeah, so I would say ultimately the goal is, someday, it'll
Yeah.
probably be a while from now.
But hey,
Um,
you got to have those dreams though.
Yeah, we'd love to have just a couple horses on
Yeah.
property. It is, I mean, I've worked in several barns. I know what it takes to take care of a horse.
Yep.
And it is a lot of work. But if you only have a couple of them, it cuts down the time, as opposed to like I've taken care of 30 horses
Yeah,
before,
right.
and that's a bear.
Oh,
honestly.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's a bear and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. But and then I would love in the short term, and hopefully a couple years once we have a house, to buy my own horse.
Yeah.
And keep it. I would like to keep it at my trainer's barn. Just to start out.
Yeah.
Obviously that comes at a cost,
Of course.
but it's
Room and
worth
board,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Or was it tack and board or
It's
whatever?
it's called board.
Board. Yep.
But there's different kinds of boards.
Yep.
Some people have rough board, which is when you like clean your own horse's stall and provide their feed and hay, but you get to keep your horse there at like a discount, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But my trainer doesn't offer that at her barn anymore. But the facility is so beautiful. It's like state of the art, brand new, indoor, outdoor trails, beautiful field to ride in. Like, she gives excellent care. she like really, really knows how to run a barn.
So that's excellent to see.
Yeah.
Like, especially once you find somebody, like, it's one thing to like work with somebody who like knows what they're doing, but it's another thing to work with somebody who knows what they're doing and also deeply cares. 'Cause
Yes.
It's one thing to know what you're doing. It's another thing to like do it with like any type of compassion or anything like that
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with something like that's living too, like
Yeah.
like horses are. You know, it's not like you're like building houses where like
Yeah.
I mean, like, I guess at the end of the day, someone living is going to be in it, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just different.
Yeah. So, for example, I guess
It's caretaking.
Yes.
It's a whole, like,
It's like having a bunch of dogs that you can ride. But like everyone
you
who
call 'em-
knows
yeah,
a dog,
that's
like
funny, yeah.
who has a dog knows that I mean, thankfully our dog has been very healthy and he's been a very good boy, but he's also very young.
Yep.
But owning animals is just a lot of work and it's a
Yeah.
lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
So you really have to love the animals
Oh, yeah.
to do it.
Definitely. Definitely
sure.
so. That's just, you know, like I said,
Yeah.
different perspective. Like I said, I'm not in tune with that world at all. Like I said, I used
Yeah.
to go look at the cows and stuff when I was a kid. But like, like in terms of like, you know, I'm no old McDonald by any means, you know, like. And so I guess, you know, like, you know, that is cool, you know, down the road, maybe get your own, you know,
Yeah.
something like that. And
That's
so,
the goal.
right. Yeah. I mean, right. And I guess, so in terms of other stuff that you've done aside from, you know, horses, I guess the other side of that would be more of an aerial experience, as it were. And so, you got the opportunity
Did it turn off?
it did, just a second. Oh, technical difficulties are fun, aren't they? Anyway, ignore that. Like I said, it's always a learning progress here, and we're always balling on a budget on the DuView podcast. But anyway, as I was saying, Dev, you have some definite, you've had the opportunity to do some aerial action here, and so you were able to actually fly a plane,
Yeah.
which was pretty unique. So if you could talk about that experience a little bit, and
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. So Jeffrey over here, he's looking at me. For my birthday last year,
yes,
he decided to get me the experience of a discovery flight out of Bedford, which is Hanscom.
oh yeah, Hanscom Air Force Base, or
Yes.
well, near Hanscom Air Force Base.
Hanscom AFB. Yeah.
Airfield. Yep.
Yeah, so which was when we lived in Waltham, pretty close by. Lots of really cool planes flying in and out of there. They have a cool school. They have probably more than one school available, but he chose East Coast Aero Club. And so basically it was awesome, by the
Yeah.
way. So cool. Highly recommend if you're interested. It got me hooked.
Yeah.
But
we can talk about that in a minute. you
yeah,
know.
yeah. So basically, how I didn't really know what to expect either. I was like,
Yeah.
are they actually gonna let me fly a plane?
Fly this
That
thing? Yeah.
sounds unsafe. So I was kind of scared, to be honest, but I was very excited.
Right on.
So Jeff came with me. He was in the back seat. We were
Yeah.
in a Piper Warrior, which is a tiny little
Yeah,
plane.
single prop.
Yeah, single prop.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. And I think the engine was like 100 horsepower.
Hey.
Just a little engine.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
yes.
Hey, it got you up and put you back down on the ground again. So
Yeah,
hey.
it did. It did. And obviously they make sure it's super, super safe. They check all the planes before we even do. But he basically went through the whole pre-flight process. So
Yep.
you do a walk around of the aircraft, just making sure that there's no leakage, no wires that are kind of, faulty. And then you just make sure that everything works. You turn everything on, you turn it all off, and then you turn it all on again once, you get the whole pre-flight done. And then we taxi.
Mhm.
And then he walked me through the takeoff. And Jeff was in the back seat, and he was feeling a little queasy. My takeoff skills were not great.
It was your first time, hey.
Yeah, I mean, with the yoke, I think I just like was a little jerky with it, but safe enough.
Yep.
And then we basically did like an hour-long flight, and it was really cool. We flew over 495. We got up to, I think, 4,000 feet, 5,000 feet. And we did a lot of like altitude gain and then altitude loss, I guess.
Yep.
And we did some turns, and he sort of was just saying, you want the airplane to be level. You don't
Yep.
want the nose to be too high or too low, obviously.
You want to have good pitch.
Yeah, and
Yep.
then we did a stall as well, or like
Oh,
a
interesting.
stall
Yep.
drill.
Yep.
So he turned the engine completely off, and we were just gliding for a little bit, and he was like, "Okay, so say your engine goes out, what are you gonna do? Look around for a field." So I was like, "Oh, there's a big field over there," and he was like, "Okay, so if this actually were to happen, you would want to land in that field, and as safely as possible."
Yeah.
And that has happened
to the best of your
to
ability,
people.
right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
exactly. That was a scary moment because I'm new to this.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, we just glided, and then he did the landing.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
there's a lot
That's
more
the most important part, right?
with that part, yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
But
There's a lot of things that go into
that's
it.
a unique experience under the sense that, like, how many people even that you know can say I've flown a plane?
Yeah, and not
Right.
too many.
I've jumped out of one, like I
yeah,
like I
that's
joked about, but
cool.
like that's at 13,000 feet.
geez.
Excuse me, that's at
Wow.
13,000 feet, and but like that same thing kind of flew over 95, and
Yeah.
like as you're going up, but like obviously you were by no means you're not in control at any point in that process at all.
Oh yeah,
Like-
that scares me. I would never jump out of a plane. So good for you.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, that's something that I have always found really fascinating. Either
Yeah,
flying
me
a
too.
plane or flying a helicopter. One of those, something
Yeah.
that allows me
Aviation
to,
is-
exactly something that is
It makes no
aviation.
sense.
Yep.
But it also does make sense.
Yeah, that's the birds.
So yeah, yeah, seriously. I mean, it's just crazy to me. I've always been fascinated by it. My grandfather was a pilot for
Oh,
Delta.
no way. So there's a family
Yes.
connection there as well.
Yeah, and I always he used to always talk about it. He passed away in 2016, but I got a lot of good years with him. And he
That's
used to
nice.
he loved it. He talked about it all the time, even when, obviously, like if you were a cop or a firefighter or whatever, they have you retire at a certain age.
Yep.
I think it's 65.
Mm-hmm.
So he was retired at 65, and then he would go to Hanscom
Yeah.
and with his buddies, with his pilot buddies, and fly single prop airplanes for fun.
Yep.
Yeah. So and then he also taught lessons.
Oh,
too.
that's
So
cool.
yeah.
How to fly through the barn and stuff. No, that's really unique though. And so he was a
Yeah.
commercial
Yes.
airline pilot. That's
Yep.
that's really cool. Actually, so another, not to draw too much back from my time on the Wealth campaign, but one of the ladies on our steering committee was the first female pilot, or
Wow.
first female, not just female pilot, first female to fly AC-130s, those big
Wow.
transport mothers. She was
Oh
one of the
my
first
God.
to do that, and she was telling me, if you were smart, and same thing, I guess, I mean, same thing for you. If you were smart, you'd go to pilot school. And I go, why is that? And she goes, well, or join the Air Force, and then, because they'll train
Yeah.
you to do everything and fly and everything like that. And I said, why is that? She says, in the next 10 years. And so I guess it would be really
Yes.
within the next 7 at this point. It's been 3 years since then. In the
Mhm.
next 7 years, we're going to have a massive pilot shortage
Yeah, and I've heard that too.
from not just
Yep.
in the commercial side of things, but
All
also
over.
in the connecting
All
back to
over.
your job, I
Yeah.
guess, in the freight world of
Yeah.
flying as well.
Yeah, so definitely, I mean, people just think that pilots transport people from place to place.
Right.
But honestly, I don't know the statistic, but
I feel like there's more goods being flown than there are people.
Yes, I will say a lot of it is cargo, and there
Yeah.
are cargo only planes, and there's a lot of them, a
Yeah.
lot. And I mean, if I was going to be a pilot, I would much prefer to fly cargo.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Well,
you
it
don't
doesn't
have to
talk
deal with
back
the
most of
crazies.
the time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so again, it's a field that I think people are saying that about teachers too, like
Yeah. High
there's-
burnout. Yeah. Yep.
because all the baby boomers are retiring or passing
Yep.
away,
Yeah.
and,
They really
and
are.
there's
Yep.
a void to fill for sure.
Oh yeah. Big time.
And that's a career path that a lot of people don't think about. Like no one is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a pilot. Like, obviously there's some people that think that way, but it's just something that you think is more out of reach than it is.
Mhm.
And it just something that you have to have something special. I mean, it is very expensive to go to pilot school, but if I had done that instead of college, then maybe I would have been a pilot by now, and that's okay.
Right.
But I didn't do that. I'm
Right.
glad that obviously I met you. I met my fiance, I can't talk today.
It's okay.
This is so
It's okay, Dev.
embarrassing. Jeff's gonna read me out in the car on the
don't-
way home. It's gonna be like, what happened with your mouth?
You can't talk. No. No,
So
but in
embarrassed.
all seriousness, though, that's yeah. Like I said, it's really unique into the sense that, again, like whether it be the aviation side of it or whatever, like we make the choices we make, but at the same time, there's always room to try new things. Is what I'm getting at.
Yes,
And I
yeah,
guess
of course.
for me, the big thing that would be cool to be able to fly would to have like, frankly, like one of the pontoon planes. Frankly,
Oh,
because my family camp is 4.5 hours from here.
are you talking about like a seaplane?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
like we land them on the lakes up here too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah, it looks like a pontoon
Yeah,
boat.
a pontoon plane. Yeah.
or like a
it's a single prop.
catamaran.
It's your single prop plane, but with instead
Yeah.
of wheels, it has pontoons. Yeah,
They're
exactly.
so cute.
They are. Oh, they're wicked fun. But those, I mean, that would just be easy access.
Oh, yeah.
For the state of Maine. I mean, I watch guys who even
Yeah.
fly those in, not with the pontoons on them, but in the wintertime they'll land on the frozen lakes.
Mhm.
Like there's a guy
Yeah.
we were watching. It was funny as hell.
Yeah, the frozen runway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they had a
that's
frozen
a thing
runway at
some
the
places,
at
for
the
sure.
there's a place up on Moosehead Lake called the Birches, and you can
Oh
go
my
there and get
God.
lunch. You can stay there.
That's
it's,
way up there.
It's over. It's like you guys would love it. It's like, think about, you pulled up an LL Bean catalog from like
Mhm.
1910. It looks like I said, it's all stylized that way, everything like that. But this guy's taking off. We're sitting there eating lunch after snowmobiling. And this guy's cleaning out people's ice fishing traps and stuff, trying to
Oh.
like get the plane up off the,
Oh my
off
God.
the lake. And it's like, oh no, you're gonna have some pissed off. He's lucky he didn't have people pulling up to him, because those snowmobiles, like you were saying, like your plane only had like 100 horsepower or something like that.
Yeah.
My snowmobile has 130 horsepower.
Yeah,
so like,
I know, yeah.
there are some of those sleds on that lake that easily, if when he was
Yeah.
taxing, could have kept up with him, and they could have,
yeah.
Grand Theft Auto'd the shit right out of him.
Yeah.
Well, hey, some people in their ice fishing traps, I mean, you're spending 100 and
Oh,
something
yeah.
odd dollars a trap or something like that on some of them. So some people get
Wow.
real antsy. But the what part of the thing I'm saying is that it's interesting you talk about the aerial stuff, is that actually we have a flight school in Augusta.
Okay,
Believe it or
so
not.
when we were driving through, I noticed that there was an airport,
Yeah, we have an airport, and
Augusta
we have a flight. So funny,
Municipal Airport or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
it's small, but we can
That's cool.
you can land, like, I think someone said you could land like a G5 jet. You can land
That's
like
pretty
you could
cool.
land something okay sized,
Yeah.
like here. But the case in point, what I'm getting to is that through the University of Maine in Augusta, as well as the school that was started, actually, funny enough, by the grandfather of one of the guys that's on the Cara board with me. Their family had a
Oh.
huge role in getting like the flight program started up here and
That's really
everything like
cool.
that. And actually, I was able to go through at one point with the like Civil Air Patrol. We have their
Oh.
headquarters are up there, and they have
Nice.
a little plane, and like to be able to go through. And actually, one of our scoutmasters had his pilot's
Oh,
license,
that's so cool.
and he was showed us pictures of him flying around near Katahdin and stuff like that.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
it's definitely something that I would be interested in doing down the road, just for the sake of like easy
Yeah.
transport up, down,
Yeah.
back around.
Maine is huge,
Yeah.
and honestly, a plane would help. Like,
that or a
think about-
helicopter.
when we were on our drive up here, actually, Jeff and I were just talking about nature and Maine, and then I was like, Maine is like East Alaska. It's huge. It's huge. It's got a lot of coastline.
Yeah, it kind of is, really.
It's the communities can be very far away from each other.
They very much
sometimes.
can
So
be.
like you can't really live in Alaska and get around if you between like the big cities, at least, without like an airplane.
Yeah. Oh,
Or,
yeah.
like,
I mean,
at
like,
least
or
chartering one.
some of them, like the city of Nome is
Yeah.
locked off unless you fly in or
Yeah.
boat in. It's like, and there. I mean, I wouldn't say there, but there are some places in Maine that are kind of like that. I
Yeah.
mean, to the sense, yes, you can drive there. It's not like it's
Oh, yeah.
impossible to drive to.
Oh yeah, no.
But for you to drive there, like, for example, I love using the place. You're not going to know it, but it's called Pittston Farms.
Okay.
It was an old farm. It's smack dab in the middle of really the crossroads of like all the snowmobile and four-wheeler trails in the western part of the state.
Oh, cool.
So if you go up to Jackman, you can leave from Jackman, and it's probably about on a good day, probably about an hour snowmobile ride from
Wow.
Jackman to Pittston Farms. But if you try to drive in, I think they said anywhere from 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
And you're going not a very far distance, mind you, really, as the crow flies. Not really.
Yeah. Well,
But
but you're right.
but
It's an
into that
alternate
sense-
form of transportation that it doesn't require paved roads.
Exactly, and you can
It's
get
cool.
there quicker
Yeah.
via a lot of the other means of transportation than you can by your average automobile.
That's
which is-
interesting.
yep.
I never thought about like using not just snowmobiling for fun, but like for ease of access.
Oh yeah, no,
Like,
seriously, yeah.
to shorten
I can
the
drive.
ride.
I can drive on my snow. Like I did this one of the last trips of the season. I did. I can get
So
in my snowmobile
weird.
up in Fort Kent, Maine, tippity top of the state, and I can
Wow.
drive down to where we trail it up for and do it in about an hour and some change.
Oh wow!
Whether you drive it on, or you do it on the road, and it takes
You just like
twice as
a
long.
straight line, or like
Some areas are, some of them aren't. It goes through the woods and you
But
twist
mo-
and turn. But a
less
lot
of
of
a
the stuff up in the
roundabout.
northern part of the
Okay.
state's pretty straight for the most part.
that's pretty cool.
Not like NASCAR straight, but like
NASCAR.
or flat.
But like yeah, you're.
But in comparison, like the trails down here versus the trails up there, it's like going from like your backcountry road to 95.
Oh, I see. I getcha.
It's
Yeah,
a
so
lot
it's
like
just
that. It's like hopping on the highway on
super
your
easy.
sled.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
where the
That's
road's all
cool.
beat up and bumpy, like you can just, and that like I said, that's one of the things that makes Maine special and makes Maine great. But also, I guess, is an Achilles heel
Yeah,
at the
you
same
can't do
time.
that in Mass. I don't
no,
think.
no, I don't really think you can. No,
Maybe out
maybe
west.
Western Mass.
Yeah, maybe out west.
Western Mass, though, to be fair to the state of Massachusetts, really is beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
To be fair to them, I mean, it
Oh,
really
yeah.
in the realest, truest sense.
I got the chance to visit a dear friend, Mary Pat, who lives in Greenfield, and just the mountain, like the Berkshires. It's just so beautiful out there,
yeah.
and it's really nice. There's a lot of fun places to eat. I mean, you'd think that there wouldn't be a whole lot out there, and in some
But surprisingly,
parts,
there is. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, compared to what you'd expect,
yes. Yeah.
there's more,
Yeah, that's
which
cool.
is really cool.
Yeah, right on. Right on. And so I guess kind of just wrapping things up with the flying aspect, do you see yourself getting back in the cockpit anytime soon? Do you see yourself continuing with that?
Yeah, so I really, I mean, like I said before, I got hooked that day, and I've been a nerd about aviation for a while.
Yeah, it's in your blood.
Yeah, yeah, I mean it is. And it's honestly it ties a lot of it ties into what I do for work. I print airway bills, I book flights for cargo and stuff like that. So I'm thinking about airplanes literally every day,
Yeah.
all day long.
Whether you want to or not, right?
Literally, I don't have a choice. And yes, I would love to fly again soon. The sad fact is that I cannot afford to go to flight school anytime soon.
Right. I mean, they don't give tickets to
Nope,
flight school away.
they
That's for
don't.
sure. It's
And
no
no one-
different than going to college or doing anything,
Yeah,
on
it's
that.
not free.
It's not free. Yep.
Even if even if some people get a discount or whatever
Yeah,
at
yeah.
college for various reasons.
Yep.
Still not free, and yeah, it's very expensive.
You don't get something for nothing, unfortunately.
But I'm definitely going to. I'm not going to be a commercial pilot. I don't see that in my future anymore, just because that's so much more training
Yeah.
and so much more
Yep.
school. But I definitely have it as a goal to at least get my private pilot license.
Recreationally and
Yes.
stuff. Take
Yep.
go out for a sunset.
We could go to Nantucket
yeah,
for lunch.
yeah, right,
like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. See, that's cool.
Just for funsies.
Yeah, no, that's what a good chunk of our time spent on the earth is, just for funsies.
Of
so
course, yeah.
yeah, that's excellent, and I'm excited for wherever that takes you in the most literal
Thank you.
sense as well. I mean, obviously, love to go
Yeah.
for once you
You want to
get-
hop in the back?
Yeah, definitely. I'll sit out back and in my smoke. Well, I guess you can't smoke in an
No,
airplane.
you
but
can't.
I say I'll sit in back with my cigar and sit in a smoking jacket with Jeff and drink
Yeah.
fine whiskeys but yeah, I guess
Oh,
we'll
yeah,
just
we'll
drink.
do a little
just
day
drink
trip.
drink fine whiskeys and champagne in the back of the plane.
Yes. Popping bottles.
Hey,
Let's do it.
When in Rome, right? So,
It'll be fun. I'll let you know.
all right. That's excellent.
We'll be in
that's-
touch.
That's very. That's very excellent. Before we wrap things up, Nev, any
Yeah.
shout outs or any
Well, thank you for having me.
Hi.
Shout out to you for having me.
I
I've been
appreciate that.
I've been wanting to be on this podcast. I'm so glad you finally asked me.
Yeah, of course.
Shout out to my fiance for driving me here and for cheering me on even when I can't talk.
Right on. Shout out to Jeff.
Shout out to Jeff. I love you very much. And then I guess shout out to my family and
Yep.
my friends.
Right on.
And I love you all.
Right
and that's a finger guns.
on. Bang bang.
And I don't know. I'm blanking. I feel
That's
like
okay.
I feel like I'm missing. I just said my family and my friends.
That's why I always
that's
use
the whole thing.
That's why I always use blanket terms because I always forget somebody.
Shout out to my whole family and all of my friends.
All of them, every single one of you. Yeah. No. Well, and appreciate every single one of you listening. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the DuView podcast. Yes, episodes have been a little bit more spaced out, but it does take me a little bit more time to put everything together with video. So I appreciate everybody who's been hanging on. The biggest thing you guys can do, though, is just share whatever I put out. New episode, silly picture, something cool from the state of Maine, or a meme, anything. It's usually pretty decent anyway. You'll get a chuckle out of it. So you can find us and this episode at DuView207 on Instagram and the DuView podcast just about everywhere else, guys. Again, thank you very much, Devin Kelley,
Thank you
for
very
coming
much.
on. Greatly appreciate that. And as I said, thank you to all of you for tuning in to this episode. And like I said, we're on YouTube now with video as long as the technological gods shine upon us and everything like that. So, like I said, we'll take it, and it's been good, guys. And I hope everybody's getting ready for a great summer here because it's going to be a good one. I can just feel it. So, see you guys in a couple weeks here, and we'll be back at it with the best of Maine life as well as some music adventures and general shenanigans here on the DuView podcast. Again, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you to my guests, and we'll see you guys back here in a couple weeks.